This idea of ignoring what the senses tell us, because we go through our days, we go through our life, and we pay attention to what we see and what we touch and what we feel and what we smell, and that becomes our reality, and we think that that's the only reality that there is. If I can touch it, if I can see it, if I can grab a hold of it, I can smell it, then that makes it real. And if I can't, then it's unreal. And what this is really about is understanding the power of our imagination, so that when we put an I am, let's just say you've got you've got a cold or you've got a flu or something like that, and if you're putting into your imagination, I am well, I am perfect health, I am well, but you watch your nose and it sneezes and it's running, and you got a fever, and you're tired and all of that. The concept of being able to say I am well and living from that place in your imagination, it's so foreign to us, because we're just so convinced that what our senses tell us is the only reality that there is. And what this is really all about is being able to live from the end and put it into your imagination, and regardless of what your senses tell you, regardless of what it says on the internet, regardless of what information people are sending to you, regardless of what it says on TV or articles that you read or whatever it is, whatever I am you would like to have, including I am prosperous, I am abundant, and you look at your bank book and you say there's nothing in it, and and I've got bills, and how can I go around saying I am prosperous when these are all but it's being able to place into your imagination that I am realizing that the words I am really are the name of God, and to say I am prosperous rather than I will be, because to say I will be prosperous or I will be healthy means to say that I don't have that now, and I don't, and it's something that maybe will come in the future. And until you can assume a feeling of something in your imagination and just live with it, regardless of what all of the other physical evidence says, because basically what we learn is that the physical world is just an illusion, that it's what's in our imagination that is the real, the real truth. And that's just such a hard one for all of us, including me.
It really is.
Yeah, but I've been practicing it, and I've done it so many times in my life. Being able to say I always give the example of when I'm writing a book, I have the jacket of the book already made in advance, long before I ever write the first word, and I wrap it around another book, and it's right in my writing space. And every day I already say that this is already complete, because I'm looking at it. So all I have to do now is just allow it to all flow through me, and that's getting into that place of allowing and beginning to forget about what the physical world is, what all of your past experience has told you, what your whole history has told you, letting go of all of that, and to be able to say, I am well, I am happy, I am content. In the Bible, in the book of Joel, there's a wonderful line that says, let the weak man say, I am strong. And being able to say it and feel it and know it, and then you begin to align with the universal force that brings it into being. So it's the power of our thoughts and the power of our imagination that I really want to have people begin to see what they can do with it.
There are two kinds of attention, according to Neville: subjective attention and objective attention. Subjective attention is different from objective attention. You want to use subjective attention, not objective attention. Neville says there's an enormous difference between attention directed objectively and attention directed subjectively. And the capacity to change your future depends on the latter. Whatever you have placed into your imagination, you always go to your reality and call that which does not exist as if it did. I am, and I have a rule about it. It's don't complain and don't explain. You don't have to explain what you have placed into your imagination. It is totally yours. One of my great teachers in my life in my early doctoral years was Dr. Abraham Maslow. He said, become independent of the good opinion of other people. Trust yourself. subjective attention, you, and only you, capital Y-O-U, are the subject that impacts the burning desire in your imagination. You are living and feeling as if your future dreams are a present fact.
This idea of not dying with your music still in you is really about an awareness that there is some kind of purpose. And that purpose to everything and to your life is not necessarily based upon something that we can figure out with our brain. Like, my purpose is to become an accountant, or my purpose is to find the perfect place to live or the perfect mate. I don't think it's done that way. It's never, to me, an intellectual thing. It's always something that's of the heart. When I ask people to point to themselves, they never point to their brain. They always point to their heart. And Gibran, the Lebanese poet, said that when you're born, your work is placed in your heart. There's something that you feel, and it's very hard to put it into words. In fact, I think it defies words, because words are just more symbols of something that we're trying to express. And it's the feeling that we have in here that I'm here, that I have a heroic mission of some kind, that there's something more to my life than just simply going through the motions and being a commuter and collecting a certain amount of stuff. So to me, not dying with your music still in you is what Maslow called the top of the pyramid. And you remember the pyramid of the self-actualization that begins with the baseline being the longest part, but the baseline is just taking care of basic needs. Like, you learn how to handle and provide for yourself. So you have to, at the very base of this pyramid, you have to feed yourself. And you have to have your needs for water, and your needs for food, and your needs for shelter as you move up this. And then your needs for sort of like companionship, and ultimately a need to feel a sense of belonging. Need to feel loved as you begin to move up this pyramid until you get to the very top. And at the very top of this pyramid, there's just a tiny little space up there. And this tiny little space at the top of the pyramid is what we call purpose, where you're living your life as if why you're here is really clear to you. A sense of purpose is not that I'm doing what I was told I was supposed to do, that was programmed into me by somebody in the sky before I showed up here, but that I feel as if why I'm here is being actualized. And when people ask me about how do I get to that place of purpose in my life, I always remind them that your life is like what Joel Goldsmith called it, a parenthesis in eternity. So who you are, Carl Jung referred over and over again to the part of us that is eternal, the infinite part of us. He said the telling question of a person's life is their relationship to the infinite. And until you have that relationship with the infinite, you will not know anything about purpose. So that you almost have to learn how to step outside of yourself and begin to witness yourself from the perspective of who you are as not being this thing that you're observing. You go to the observer, and then you even get to watch the observer. And that's when it starts to get a little bit complicated. But as the observer, or as the witness to the observer, you're sort of watching and noticing. But the sense of purpose comes from being that witness rather than what you are witnessing. And when you get to that place in your life, you begin to realize that who you are in this physical world, this name that you've been given and this body that you are occupying, is nothing more than a parenthesis in something called eternity. It opens parentheses at the moment of your conception. It closes parentheses at the moment of your death. But when you come into this parentheses, when you show up here, you show up with nothing, with no thing. And you go from nowhere, Nowhere, nowhere. And in one instant, conception, you're in now here, Nowhere. It's all the same. It's just a little question of spacing. Nowhere, now here. So now you're in now here. Hopefully, all of you listening are in now here. There may be some of you listening that are not now here. But while you're in now here, you have some kind of an awareness that you're going nowhere. You're going back to nowhere. So it's nowhere, open parentheses, now here, back to nowhere. It's all one. But there's something different about now here than nowhere. At least we think there is, but we don't have any real confirmation about that unless you're Brian Weiss. Or you know about past lives or future lives and so on. Now, one of the things that one of the great teachers in my life, Carlos Castaneda, whom I've referred to on many occasions, one of the things that he says is that the problem with humanity living at ordinary levels of awareness is that we are all beings who are going to die, but we act as if we're not, so that we don't really ever come in contact with our immortality or our infinity at all, because we are acting as if this body is all that there is and it's going to live forever, when in fact there's an awareness in there that we're all going nowhere.
It isn't, your purpose isn't to try to be loving. Your purpose is to be love and only have that to give away. Well, but there's one other ingredient, and it's really crucial. Forgiveness is the vital ingredient on the path of enlightenment. And if you don't know how to do it, then practice sending out love. Take the person or the people that you're having conflict with, any place in your life, send them something. You don't have to even do it physically. Just send them something that comes from inside. And what's inside is how you choose to think. And if you can make that love and do that, and that is to me the test. Not whether you can love someone when they smell good, when they do everything that you're supposed to, but whether you can love someone who has sent you hate or anguish in your life and send it back. You don't have to forget. You don't have to go back. But you got to get it out of you, because it is blocking you and holding you back.
Living the Tao Te Ching, this 2,600-year-old, some people call it the greatest, the wisest book ever written. It speaks so much about relationships. Tao, the word Tao, means the great way. It's really just another synonym for God, or source, or spirit, or that which is the all-creating. And one of the things that it says that was really helpful to me, probably the most helpful thing in it, was that whenever you have a conflict of any kind, in any relationship, whenever you have a conflict, that the person who is willing to be of Tao, of God, of Source, is the one who will practice forgiveness, or will go to the person that they have a conflict with and bring love to it, instead of the freeze out, instead of the anger, instead of the hatred, instead of the revenge, instead of so many of the things that we do when we have conflicts in our lives. We just don't talk to that person. Like, I'm not talking to that. I'm not talking to him. He's going to call me because I called the last time. And but the person who lives the Tao life, the life of a higher consciousness, is the person who says, "I end all conflicts on love, which is where we all come from. We come from a source that is love. So for me, that has been just so useful. I have 8 children, and that's been just extraordinarily helpful for me to be in a relationship where I can always be of love, where I can just, and so then you don't even, conflicts become something that are no longer present, because conflict requires two-ness. In order to have a conflict, you have to have two. You have two different opinions or whatever. But if you live in oneness, if you really see yourself in everyone else, see yourself in all the things, including
the plants, including the animals, and including all beings, and so on. If you just suspend this ego part of you and just see yourself in that other person, then your arguments are really with yourself, and your hatreds are really about yourself, and you begin to really see that I don't have to project anything onto anyone else that isn't what I choose to be.
And the idea of allowing is that you start to see that you start to look at the world not the way you want it to be. This is this is the shift in our subconscious mind training that we have to go through. We have to get out of this mindset that the world ought to be the way I want it to be, and things ought to be going the way I think that they should be going, and that there should be nothing bad happens, and all of this kinds of stuff that we fill our inner world with, and talk about how terrible this is and that is and so on, when in fact the world is just the way it is. And when you can align yourself with that awareness that yes, you can do things to improve it and so on, but not by judging it and not by saying that it shouldn't be this way. I've given the example many times of my friend Ram Dass, who, when we were talking about starvation, and it was when I was working for the Hunger Project to try to end hunger by the beginning of this century. This was back in the 1980s. And Ram Dass said to me many years ago that starvation, in different parts of the world is part of the perfection of the universe. You've got to understand that, as hard as that is to grasp. And I paused and thought about that, and my original reaction is, how can you say such a thing? How can we accept the idea that some people have got to starve to death in a world where there's plenty of food and the technology to be able to grow it and so on is all here? How can you say that? But then he concluded his remark to me. He said, so starvation is a part of the perfection of the world, but so is your desire to end it. That's part of the perfection of the world. And so it's like and so where you put your attention is not on what you don't want, because if what you think about is what expands, and if you put your attention on the things that you don't like and that you don't want, then you just multiply the amount of negativity and the amount of what you don't want. You become a part of the very thing that you are trying to eradicate.
The famous Danish theologian Søren Kierkegaard once said that once you label me, you negate me. And our past is filled with labels about what we can and can't do. I'm not very good at this. I'm not athletic. I'm not musical. I'm not able to do certain kinds of activities. I don't have a good memory. I'm not very good at mathematics. I've never been good at relating to other people. I'm shy. I'm nervous. I'm clumsy. These are all labels from the wake, from our past. And all of them are just things that you have used as an explanation or as an excuse for why you don't move into a different place in your life. And they all revolve around this thing called failure. I tried them. I wasn't good at them, therefore I failed. And when you give up your personal history, you give up the concept of failure. It is, again, another illusion. You have never failed at anything in your life. Everything you've ever done has produced a result. You are just out there producing results. The issue isn't whether you fail. The issue is, what do I do and what have I done with the results that I have produced? So that if you I love that story that I heard not too long ago of a little boy who was walking, and you know how little boys do it? I used to do it all the time. And you take a softball and you throw it up into the air, and then you have a bat, which is often a stick, it was for us, and you swing at it like this, and the little boy throws the ball up into the air, and he swings, and he misses. So he picks the ball up again, and he walks a little further, and nobody's around, and he throws the ball up into the air, and he swings again, and the ball falls to the ground. He misses. Then he picks up the ball again, and he looks around, and nobody's there, and he throws it up into the air, and he swings his stick. It misses again and hits the floor, the ground. And he responds, "What a pitcher." It's the idea that you can never fail at anything. And I can't tell you how many endless clients that I have told, you have never failed at anything in your life. If you weigh 300 pounds, and you've weighed 300 pounds for the last 20 years, you have just produced enormous results. And the question isn't, why am I such a failure? Why have I always been obese? Why have I always been these terrible things that are back there in the past that I'm bonded to, and now coming up with reasons to explain it away? Well, my mother, we have this, and then I'm doing it in response to that, and this is because of that. And you can come up with an endless number of reasons. I was talking about this last night, that my brother and I both lived in the same foster homes, in the same orphanage for years. And my one brother is very shy and very reserved and has had a great deal of difficulty. And I've been out there, very public and very outgoing and so on. And both of us can explain our behavior on the basis of the same experience. Obviously, I have self-confidence because I never had anybody to give me confidence when I was young. And I was always going from place to place, so I had to go within and rely upon myself. And my brother would say, obviously, I don't have any confidence because I didn't have anybody to give me any confidence when I was young. There was nobody there, so that's the way my life is. And you can explain anything away. But if you're that 300-pounder, you have produced results. The question is, what are you doing with the results that you've produced? What are you going to do about that? Are you going to be a great pitcher and remind yourself of this is a different way to look at that? Or are you going to tell yourself that my personal history is such that there's nothing I can do about it? If you want to walk the extra mile, the path less traveled, give up your personal history. If you don't have a story, you won't have to live up to it. And you can live every moment in the only place where you'll ever come to know what it's like to be connected and united with God. It's the only place God ever is or ever has been. Right here, now. Don't use your weaknesses, your struggles, your difficulties, the things that happen to you as a calling card. It's sharing it with everybody else and using it as a way to get sympathy for yourself. If you've been through a divorce, if you're a widow, if you've been through cancer, if you've been, whatever it is, don't use that as a way to get attention for yourself. Because what it'll do is it'll keep you bonded back here. And it'll also give you more of an opportunity to repeat and attract the very thing that you're still upset about.
Think about what is missing in your life, and you talk to your friends about it, and you put your attention and your energy on it in your telephone conversations, and you go to sleep thinking about what is missing, and you have this kind of an energy system going on for you. You will continue to have what you are thinking about show up in your life, and you'll see more and more and more of missingness continue to show up. You can't think about and put your energy on what is missing unless you want it to keep being that way in your life. So that's the first thing you want to shift. That's the first obstacle to reaching this state of what I call intention. Secondly, if you put your thoughts on what is, you will continue to attract what is into your life. Now, I'm going to suggest something very strange up here right now. I told you when it gets weird, that you have the ability to put your attention on an inner mantra that I have recorded in a CD called Meditations for Manifesting, that came to me from a teacher 2,300 years ago named Patanjali in India, who taught people at that time, when this is before the Middle Ages, this was like when people hadn't been out of caves too long, was teaching people how to levitate, and was teaching people how to bilocate, and was teaching people how to have the gift of fish and loaves 300 years before Jesus showed up on this planet. And his aphorisms of Patanjali are a big part of a spiritual solution to every problem. And what he suggested at that time is a meditation called japa. And this meditation is something where you take your attention, your inner energy, off of what is and onto what you intend to manifest, and you repeat the sound that is in the name of God as an inner mantra. And by repeating this sound, you attract the energy from outside of yourself, that is the source from which you emanated, to cooperate with you and literally collaborate with you to shift it into whatever it is that you intend to manifest. And you can do this with money. You can do this with getting pregnant if you haven't been able to do that. You can get it with selling your home. You can get it, and if you take a look at 300 years later, 400 years later, John the Baptist writes in the New Testament the opening line of the New of the book of John in the New Testament. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. As strange as it may sound to you, based upon the conditioning that you have had, just like Ivan Illich, the repetition of the sound as an inner mantra is a way of getting in the gap. And it is a way of, when you repeat this sound, attracting whatever energy, that dormant forces that are out there, into your life to have whatever you need show up. And all I can say to you is, I stand up here before you tonight from my heart telling you that it has always worked for me. It is a meditation practice. It is so powerful, and I can't tell you how many people have been practicing it, including Gary, who spoke to you here today. And there is absolutely no limit to what you can attract into your life simply by practicing it. I have put it on CD. I put it in Getting in the Gap. I teach it. I donate all of the proceeds from it to charities because I was asked to teach it, but to take no money for it. And I've been doing it for several years now. If your thoughts are on what is, let's just say you've got a disease process. Cancer, arthritis, the flu, a cold. If your thoughts are on, if you get a sniffle and your thoughts are on, this is in my nose today, but tomorrow it'll be in my throat. On Wednesday, it'll be down in my chest. On Thursday, I'll probably have a fever. I'm going to have to take Friday off. Now, it's Monday morning, and you've got a sniffle, and in your mind, you're taking Friday off with a fever. If this is how you have trained your mind to work, to put your attention on the circumstances of your life, self-actualizing people, Abraham Maslow was a great teacher of mine. I was blessed to know him. I was blessed to be one of his devotees. He died on the 14th of June, 1970, in the same hour that I walked across the stage at Cobo Hall in Detroit receiving my PhD. In the same hour. He passed the baton on. He said, I've taught self-actualization to the academic world. Now you take it to the masses. And Maslow said, self-actualizing people are distinguished from everybody else with this sentence: they must be what they can be. They must be what they can be. And one of those 10 secrets for success and inner peace is that you can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it. And know this, that your mind created everything in your life that you call a problem. And self-actualizing, highly functioning people who live at these extremely, extraordinarily high levels of consciousness never put their thoughts on what is if they don't like what is. Because if your thoughts are on what is, and you despise what is, and if you look at poor people, if you look at unsuccessful people, if you look at sickly people, if you look at tired people, if you look at addicted people, you will see people who put their attention constantly on their problems, on what is wrong, on what isn't working, on what I can't do, and so on. They'll tell you about it, they'll focus on it, and when your thoughts are on what is, and what you think about is what expands, you continue to attract more of what is into your life. When I had a practice, I had a woman who came to me who said, I just went through a divorce 7 months ago, and I've been dating, and I've dated 4 different men, and all 4 of them have used me as a sex object. And every single one of them called me up after the first date and were mistreating me, and they didn't have any respect for me, and that was the end of it. And she said, I'd like you to talk to all 4 of these men. And I said, there's only one common denominator here. You are attracting into your life what you are putting your attention on. It's called the Job effect. You can't think about what is missing, and you can't think and put your energy and talk about what is if you don't like what is. Can't do that unless you want more of that to show up. Third, you cannot put your attention or your thoughts or your energy on what always has been. If you put your thoughts or your energy on what always has been is what will continue to show up into your life. What always has been is the wake of a boat. Your life is a boat. It's heading up the river in that direction. And it's heading there at 40 knots. And you're standing on the stern, and you're looking down at the water, and as the boat goes in this direction, here you are looking down into the water, and what do you see? You see the wake. And what is the wake? The wake is the trail that is left behind. That's what the wake of your life is. That's what the wake of the boat is. And if you ask yourself the question, what's driving the boat? What's making this thing head in this direction? The answer is the present moment energy that is being generated by the engine, and nothing more is what's making the boat go in this direction. And then if you ask yourself this key question, is it possible for the wake to drive the boat? Can a trail that is left behind make a boat go in this direction? What's the answer? Impossible, isn't it? And so too is it impossible for the wake of your life, the trail that you've left behind, to be the reason why your life is going in this direction. It is not because of anything that has happened back here. That's an illusion that we live under. What has happened back here is a trail. The choices you make in this moment. And if your thoughts are on what always has been, this is the way we've always done things, this is the kind of person I am, I can't change, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, all of those cliches that have become so much a part of our life, if your thoughts are on what always has been, and you despise what always has been, you will continue to attract more of what always has been, even though you despise it. It works that way. So you can't think about what's missing, what is, and what always has been. And it gets worse. You cannot think about and put your attention on what they want or expect for you if you want that to change in your life. And there's no shortage of people who have an opinion about what it is that you should be or shouldn't be or how you should be doing it. Most of these are your relatives. I have a wonderful book in mind to write. It's called Your Friends Are God's Way of Apologizing for Your Relatives. But if I talk to your relatives, they laugh too. So we all have this idea that the reason I'm not getting where I'd like to be, particularly with young people and working with young people over the years, it's because my parents want this, and my parents think that, and my parents won't let me do this. And I always said, well, but why are you so attached to what your parents think? Well, these are my parents, and I have to do it. I said, you can listen to it, you can take it in, but you don't have to embrace it. You don't have to live by that. And certainly when you become adults, when if there are people out there who convince you that you should or shouldn't be doing this or that, then you're
going to continue to attract exactly what it is that they have their attention on. So if you put your thoughts on what they want for you, you tell everybody else about how it makes you go from being blissed to pissed just by being in their presence, just by being on the telephone with them. That person, that in-law, that mother, that father, that grandparent, that child, that whoever it might be, is giving you, or even your neighbors or your friends or whomever, your coworkers are telling you what you should or shouldn't be, and you don't like the advice that they're giving, and you resent very strongly. One of the 10 secrets for success and inner peace says there are no justified resentments. Your resentments are things that destroy you. So if your thoughts are on what they want for you, and what they want for you is something you don't like, you will continue to attract more of and use the attractor energy of the universe to attract more of what they want for you, even though you are upset about it. So here you go. There are 4 things that you can't do with your mind if you want to move into this state of intention that I'll be speaking about tomorrow. And these are, you cannot put your thoughts on what's missing, on the circumstances of your life, on what you always have been, or what others want for you. So you have to learn to do a somersault into the inconceivable and only put your thoughts or your attention on what you intend to manifest for yourself. Every thought that you have is an energy. Everything in the universe is an energy. And when you have a thought that is a thought that weakens you, which Hawkins speaks about so brilliantly in Power versus Force, that thought, the 10th secret in 10 Secrets says, wisdom is avoiding all thoughts which weaken you. And thoughts change and make you strong or weak depending upon whether or not what you're thinking at any given moment. The instant that you put something into your body and hold it close to it, the moment that you move into the energy field of someone who is negative, and I'll be speaking more about this tomorrow afternoon and doing a little bit more of demonstration on it, that everything in this universe is an energy. I have the prayer of St. Francis on and which I'll be reciting tomorrow, and Sky will sing for you tomorrow, on a card that is produced by a woman who lives in a wheelchair. And also, and all it takes is to be in the energy field. If I had Linda hold this up next to her, it would strengthen her. Just the words. Energy is in everything. And here's one of the most powerful notions about how you move into this area of bringing higher energy to the presence of lower energy in your life to strengthen rather than weaken you. It was on the wall of the ashram where Mother Teresa lived. And it goes like this. If you want to know tonight what to do and what to think and how to bring this energy to you, listen to these words. And put these, as I said, the money that's collected on these goes to a woman who lives in a wheelchair, who has the intention to not be dependent. And you stick this on there, and you know, your children just have to walk by these words. And the energy, it touches and impacts them. Just like the music, the CD, even carrying it around. It's why I knew that Sky's CD would strengthen rather than weaken you. You can take the prayer of St. Francis, which she sings on there, put that on in your car and play it in a moment of frustration or anguish in traffic, and you know what? You can move the traffic. I know you laugh and you think that kind of thing is impossible. There is nothing that you can't do when you shift your energy from energies that weaken to energies that strengthen. And this is what Kent Keith had written and what Mother Teresa lived by. She said, people are often unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you are kind, people may accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you are successful, you will win some false friends and some true enemies. Succeed anyway. If you are honest and frank, people may cheat you. Be honest and frank anyway. What you spend years building, someone may destroy overnight.
is particularly relevant in America, isn't it? Build anyway. If you find serenity and happiness, they may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today, people will often forget tomorrow. Do good anyway. Give the world the best you have, and it may never be enough. Give the world the best you have anyway. You see, in the final analysis, it's all between you and God. It was never between you and them anyway.